brought the van to the garage, to the mechanic. This garage owned by a guy who used to work for the Volkswagen dealer and opened his own garage, and he's fantastic. Doesn't speak a single word of English, but we manage, you know, and just so super friendly. I've been in most parts of France, but I find the people here in the middle, in the Allier region, just incredibly friendly. There's just a few rules that I have learned, and that's one: you always start any conversation, and I mean really any conversation, with bonjour. You don't ask someone for the time or for the way to go somewhere without saying bonjour. Any conversation needs to be started with bonjour. If you don't do that, you've lost. Second, you of course you never ever start talking English without you knowing the person speaking English. But also, you don't ask people, do you speak English? Parlez-vous anglais? You don't. Because 9 out of 10 times, probably 99 out of 100 times, they will say no. And they will shut down. Because even if they do speak English, they are not so confident about it. So it's more safe for them to say no. So what I do is I start talking in French, and usually I can get by. And sometimes, like yesterday, I had to go to the doctor with my nose. Remember, everything's fine, by the way. But I went there and I already made a note, which I translated into French and on my phone, and immediately I gave it to him to read. You know, these situations where my French is not enough to communicate by just the limited words that I know, I prepare it like that. And not assuming that people speak English opens up so much more possibilities. I've noticed people will eventually start communicating in English with you after you have shown that you're really trying to communicate in French. Basically my rules, the rules that I live by here. The word was that the French were arrogant and difficult and didn't want to communicate. Nothing. I have noticed nothing of that. Nothing. If you start a conversation with him in French, in your broken French, and you really try, opens up everything. People are so nice here, so friendly. You hear the birds? I'm not even listening to music or podcasts anymore when I work. Just the sound of the birds is so fantastic. There's so many birds because the neighbor's got a big cherry tree. Look at all those cherries. Just watering the flower pot or the plant a little. It's just a mixture of water and dirt, soil, sand. After this we'll just give it a good rinse over, just to make it a little bit less new. I found a really good recipe actually online for moss, creating moss, but this is not the right time of year. It's just too hot, too sunny. Just do all that in the after the summer. Darker in the deep areas and lighter on the surface. So it looks a lot less new now. Yeah, no need to rinse with water. We'll put some greens in. I just picked up some greens that I like to use in cooking. Over the last weeks there were lots and lots of protests here in France. Well, people protesting about the government wanting to change the retirement age, the official retirement age from 62 to 65. Massive, massive, massive protests all throughout France and all the big cities. What's so bad about working until you're 65, 3 years more? It can only be really bad for you if you really hate your job, isn't it? I think the problem is not working till 65, 3 years more. The problem is that most of these people just do a job that they hate. That's a shame, because if you have to work for 40 years in a job that you hate, it's quite a waste of life. When I think I turned 21, I decided that I wouldn't work in my life anymore, never. And apart from the odd few weeks or months here or there, I never worked in my life anymore. For the past 26 years I haven't worked. I've only done my hobby. I've only done things that I loved. I loved cooking, and I became a cook. I loved driving and traveling, and I became a coach driver, taking people on holidays throughout Europe. That wasn't work. It was just me traveling with people and having a good time. I loved sailing. I became a professional sailor and captain. I loved scuba diving. I became a scuba diving instructor. Not all of these jobs paid me a lot. Probably could have earned more here and there. But, you know, what is it all about? By the time I'm on my deathbed, surrounded by family and loved ones, and I look back at my life, I will definitely not regret not buying that big Mercedes-Benz or the Rolex. There are things that I would regret, I'm sure. So once in a while I really reflect on that, thinking, you know, what would I feel and think once I'm on my deathbed and I know death is coming, and I look back on my life. What am I proud of? What do I regret? Yeah, and if I find something that I regret, then I try to change it immediately. Some time back I was talking with someone. I hadn't seen him for years, and obviously he saw these videos, seen these vlogs, and he says, "Oh yeah, you lead a pretty good life, huh?" And I felt it was like an attack, you know, like I should defend myself about doing what I like to do and what I really enjoy. Because obviously he was not doing something that he really enjoyed. I told him, I said, I don't want to have any regrets later. Of course I will have regrets. Everybody has regrets. Everybody with a conscious mind will have regrets. But I try to avoid having regrets later. I'm doing exactly what I love. Are you? And he said, nah, I know I will have regrets. I said, why? He says, because I always wanted to open my own hospitality business. I said, well, why don't you? He says, yeah, I'm now in a job, you know, and he said, it pays well and I don't have the funds to open my own business. I said, well, then your job is not paying well enough, because you're doing something that you don't really feel passionate about, but it doesn't pay you enough to do what you feel really passionate about. It's a shame, you know. And I understand it's not easy to make changes, you know, especially if you have a family to care for. I think my strategy has always been to keep my overhead low. I'm not into loans with banks in order to buy me something that I can't really afford. That sort of has always given me the freedom. Do we put more plants in here or not? It's pretty packed. I don't even know what it is. I bought all kinds of herbs. This is going to be my little herb garden. But I don't know what herbs they are. Oh God.
Mary is the gardener. Maybe you put in this red one just for a change. I have no clue what it is. I was gonna leave this to Nadia, but you know what? I just wanna have it finished this week. Ah, damn it. Bird shit all over my laundry. Finally starting to render the little house. Well, I've done the street side already, but we're gonna do the back side and that side in that crazy corner. Well, I'm using the same stuff again. I'm using Saint Astier Chaud Tradi. That's the stuff I've been using before. It's a hydraulic lime. It's just a chemical process. It hardens with water and not an aerated lime or whatever you call them. If you watch other YouTube channels where people are renovating old buildings, they often use an air-dried lime. An air-dried lime has certain characteristics that are really nice. It cleans air. I think it absorbs carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, I'm not sure. Carbon dioxide, I think. And it lets the wall breathe. But in this case, yeah, okay, that's all good if you have an old wall. In this house, the little house, the walls are all just, you know, bricks. It's just a modern way of building. So there's no point in using this air-dried lime. I'm just using this lime. I've used it before. It works well. It's not that easy, but you know, it's, yeah, well, you gotta do it anyway, right? You gotta learn it. Other people have done it before me, so I'm sure I can do it too after some practice. Yeah, I've just done that side of the house, the entrance of the little house, and I just gotta get the feel back in my hands. It's been more than 6 months. Well, probably longer than that I've done the front of the house, the street side, and I just need to get the feel back in my hands, and also mixing the mortar, the render. It comes quite close, you know. I mean, too much water, too little water, it really affects the stuff. It's not as forgiving as modern day building materials. So, but anyway, we just go for it. 2 sand, 1 lime. Someone advised me to use a hawk. Yeah, I got one, but I don't like it. It's just too heavy in the hand, it's too cumbersome, it's too large. Nah, I've tried it. I don't like it. My experience on this is that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know why. The mixture is the same. The conditions are more or less the same. But sometimes it just does not work. And yeah, better to stop immediately with it. Just carry on tomorrow, because once you get seriously frustrated, Now you start to dislike it, become desperate. For some of you who've been watching last year, I had some moments where all of the rendering came falling down and I just didn't get it. I still blame the sunshine. You know, as long as most of it is sticking to the wall, I'm quite happy. And the corners will do once this is cured, and this will cure in a day. Yeah. Last year I came up with a number of rules, and one of these rules was don't overwork it, like I'm doing now. Don't do that too much. You slap it on, and then you make it smooth after, say, it's been on the wall for 5 minutes, and then you don't touch it anymore. And then once it's dry, go over it with a wire brush and we get some structure in it. We can shape it, because it's still fairly soft, right? I mean, it's not a cement, it's lime. Oh yeah, I remember another rule was you go from wet to dry. You don't move towards the wet. So we go up. Oh boy, there we go. And the amount of water you put in makes a huge difference. It's really unforgiving. I think the reason why it falls down is because the wall is obviously not 100% straight and flat, and you press with this thing equal, but if you've got an area where it's hollow in the wall, you don't apply the same pressure as in the high areas. Oh boy, I'm overworking it. I should quit. Should just call it a day.